Hiya, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Tabby. Friends, I have got a dessert for you today that was quick and easy to put together. The flavor is absolutely delicious. You're gonna love it. I got this recipe from Scott and Karen on Facebook. If you don't follow them, you should. Their page is just called Scott and Karen. It's a baked puff pastry apple tart with a crumble on top. My whole house smells like a beautiful cinnamon apple candle. It's delicious. The flavor is incredible. Look at the rise on that little pastry. We do a little trick around the edge to make that puff up really nice around the edge while the middle stays nice and contained. Yeah, and you guys are just absolutely gonna love it. So what else is there to say? Let's have some fun and let's get cooking. All right, friends, let's get this apple crumble put together. So you can see I have my puff pastry here on my pan, on my bar pan, parchment lined, and I'm gonna take a sharp knife and I'm gonna see if I can bring you in just a little bit so you can see. There we go. I'm gonna go about 1/4 of an inch in from the edge and just give that a score all the way around the puff pastry. You don't wanna cut it all the way through. You're not cutting it off, you're just scoring it right down through there. So you can see I'm gonna go down this side. And what that's gonna do when it bakes, that little scored edge is gonna puff up around your apple tart area. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to take my apples. I've taken 2 large Granny Smith apples and just kind of diced them up. You can slice them if you want, but I thought I like them better diced. And I'm gonna add to that some cinnamon, some sugar, and 1 tablespoon of flour. And I will put the recipe in the comments, just like always, so you don't have to worry about trying to write that down right now. But we're just gonna give that a nice stir to coat those apples with the cinnamon, the flour, and the sugar. And then once we get this combined and all of these ingredients get to know each other really well, we're gonna drop it out right on top of this puff pastry. And you don't want to go all the way to the edge. You're gonna stay inside that scored area where you scored it with your knife. So let's dump this out here. So I'm gonna use my hands and just kind of press that around. Press it around on there and get that covered up well. There's just something about the smell of apples with cinnamon and sugar. It just feels like home to me. It smells like home and it feels like home. It's just a very comforting smell. Don't you think? Comment below what your favorite smell is. There's a special comforting smell that you have that doesn't even have to do with baking. It doesn't have to be something that's baking. If it's just a certain smell that's comforting to you, comment below. I'd like to know what it is. I'll tell you one smell that I love that is so comforting to me is the smell of pipe tobacco. My dad, when I was little, he smoked a pipe, and I loved it when he put fresh tobacco in that pipe, that first light for that fresh tobacco. Oh, Sir Walter Raleigh was the name of the tobacco, and I loved it. So that's a smell that just takes me back to being a kid and loving it. And also, as strange as it sounds, the smell of diesel. This diesel fuel. My dad was a truck driver, so the smell of that diesel fuel always reminds me, you know, of like him coming home or him leaving, which always wasn't as nice. And then as I got older, I worked for a veterinarian, and his pickup truck was a diesel pickup truck. And so the smell of that diesel just reminds me of Dr. Brester. He was just such an amazing person. He was like a dad to me. All right, walk down memory lane is over. There's our apples. So we're gonna set those aside for a minute. We're just gonna leave that sit there for a minute. And I'm gonna bring you guys over here a little closer so you can see what I'm doing here. I did use my little pizza roller to roll that puff pastry out just a little bit because it was just a little bit too small. I wanted it just a little bit bigger than what it was when I unrolled it. So just so you know. All right, I'm just gonna use that same bowl that I had my apples in, and I'm going to add to that some oatmeal and a little cinnamon, brown sugar, flour, and I have some pecans. Now these are roasted pecans. I love using roasted pecans when I'm cooking because There's just so much added flavor to them. And I've already chopped these up, so I'm just gonna dump those in. And we're just gonna use our fork, mix all of that up. So we're making the crumble that's gonna go on top now of the apple tart. And we have one more ingredient that's gotta go in here. I'm sure if you've ever made a crumble, you probably know what that ingredient is. But you want it to be very cold. So I don't have it out yet. I'm gonna have to get it out of the refrigerator. So you can see what that looks like. Nice and crumbly, right? It's gonna get really crumbly here in just a second though. All right, so I have a 1/4 cup of very cold butter, which is just a half a stick of butter. And I have cut it into these little pieces. And we're just gonna drop all of that in there. And we're gonna use our fork to start working that in. And we may have to end up using the fingers too. One of the best tools in the kitchen that God gave me, my fingers. But we're gonna start with the fork. So we're just gonna start pressing that butter into the oatmeal and the brown sugar. In go the fingers. So if you just take those little bits of butter and you just kind of get them coated in the oatmeal and stuff and then just press them together in between your fingers, that's gonna help really get that worked into that crumble really well. All right, that was fun. I'm gonna go wash my hands now. Okay, so now we're gonna take that crumble. I've got my hands all nice and clean, so I'm gonna get them dirty again. We're gonna take that crumble and we're just gonna start sprinkling it right over the top of all of these apples. That was the perfect amount. Now remember, as it bakes, it's going to melt down just a little bit. Those chunks of butter are gonna melt down, so it looks pretty mounded up right now, but it will flatten out some as it's baking. All right, now you could easily bake it just like this without adding anything else to it. However, I'm gonna add one more little thing to it, which is totally optional. Up until now, I would say it's not optional. Now, unless you have an allergy to cinnamon, you can't have cinnamon in it. My niece has an allergy to cinnamon, so you'd have to leave the cinnamon out, which would be very sad, but you know. So, this is the last thing I'm gonna do. I've got little, oops, upside down, little caramel bites. So these are already ready little, I'll show you. They're just little, just like it says, little caramel bites. Isn't that cute? So I'm just gonna sprinkle just a few of these on top here. Not a whole lot, just a few, just to add a little bit of a caramel apple flavor. All right, now I have preheated my oven to 400 degrees, and I'm going to put this in that 400-degree oven, and it's going to bake for 25 to 30 minutes, or until that puff pastry is nice and golden brown on the edge. Okay, let me come down here close so you guys can see it. There you go, that looks really good. So let's get it in our 400-degree oven. Lost a piece of caramel. All right, guys, I'm gonna set my timer for 25 minutes. Check it then, and then when it's all done and I take it out, I'll be back. Hang on. All right, guys, the timer's just now going off. Maybe. There it is. So let's get this puff pastry apple tart out and take a look at it. All right, one thing I see right away is I maybe should have waited to put the caramel on until the end. I don't know, guys, tell me what you think. Looks like that caramel got a little bit brown on top, but it sure does smell good. But see how that puff pastry just puffed up right around the edge there where we scored it? Isn't that beautiful? All right, I'm gonna let this cool off just a little bit, and when it cools off, I'll come back and we'll cut a little piece and we'll try it together, okay? I'll be right back. All right, guys, I've waited as long as I can. Here it is. We're gonna give it a try. It smells amazing, and that crumble is crunchy on top. It feels like those apples are just the perfect tenderness. You guys, that's amazing. Scott and Karen, you guys are the bomb. That might be one of the best things I've ever eaten, you guys, and I'm not even exaggerating. The only thing missing is I wish I had a little dollop of ice cream on the side. I do have my cup of coffee right there, though. I'm gonna drink a little coffee with it. Guys, you've got to try this recipe. You just have to. It is absolutely delicious and so easy to put together. Super easy. And like I said, nothing better than the smell of cinnamon and apples cooking and baking. This house smells amazing right now. It's amazing. You guys are gonna love it. I hope you try it. Yeah. All right, guys, what I need you to do, spread this video around like good butter. Make sure that you're sharing it with your family and friends so they can all see how fun it is to just get in the kitchen and get cooking. Just do something fun in the kitchen, make a memory. It helps me, but it helps them too. Guys, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you're liking and commenting on the post as well. That helps me out a ton also. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, comment, share it, and then make sure you click that notification bell. It's right over here on the side of the video. And make sure you click all so that you never miss a recipe. Every time I post a recipe, you'll get notified and you won't miss one. Guys, I love you. Please remember that Christ is the unseen guest at every dinner table, and he is the silent listener at every conversation. So just make sure the words coming out of your mouth are sweet and pure like honey. Make sure they're lifting people up and loving on them and shining your light, because that's what we're called to do. Thanks so much for letting me into your home, and I love having you in the kitchen with me. You guys have a great day, okay? And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. All right, guys, on a side note, just a little end note here. I did go back and I took off all those little pieces of caramel. So you can see how it looks now. That looks much prettier without the caramel, but I have to admit, I kept it all right there. And I'll tell you, that is gonna be delicious on some ice cream. I gotta buy the ice cream first, but I'm gonna hang on to that because I think that's gonna be really good. They're a little bit crunchy, chewy, and I like things that are really well done. So they don't taste burned, they're just a little extra done, but I don't think it added to the flavor of the tart at all. So I went ahead and took those off. Now, that being said, when it's done baking, if you wanted, you could probably just drizzle some table caramel, you know, like out of a jar, and just drizzle a little bit of caramel on top. It doesn't need it because it's delicious the way it is, but if you really love caramel and you want to just kick it up a notch and make it a little extra bougie, like my niece Addie says, you could drizzle a little bit of that caramel out of a jar on there, and I think it would absolutely be delicious. So there you go. Note to self, next time, no little caramel bites on top before you bake it. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.